Good morning, everybody. I want to talk about the second cure for a lean purse. Now, this is the second cure for a lean purse. What did we say the first cure for a lean purse was? To start that expenditures to growing, right? To start that wallet to fattening. The second cure for a lean purse is to control thy expenditure. Control thy expenditure. Now, how do you control your expenditure? We're going to talk about that in this video. But the number one way you control your expenditure is through a budget. Now, I'm going to go to the book, The Richest Man in Babylon, and tell you what he has to say from it. Now, most of the words that I read from The Richest Man in Babylon are excerpts that I've took out that I felt like was the most important parts of the book so that you can grasp it. Because I know a lot of you probably won't buy the book. No matter how much I urge it, you probably won't buy it. Jim Rohn talked about it where people always asked him about how do you create wealth and how do you get rich? And he would always say, buy the book, The Richest Man in Babylon. And then during another seminar, the next year, or 2 years later, or 4 years later, and those people be in the same situation, sitting in those same seats and asking the same question, and he would ask the question, did you buy the book, The Richest Man in Babylon? And most of them would say they did not. So I'm going to help you out here, and I'm going to give you some inserts from The Richest Man in Babylon. And all you got to do is do it. But I am wholly suggesting that you go buy this book, The Richest Man in Babylon. And what do we say the second cure was? Control thy expenditure. Now here we go, from The Richest Man in Babylon. What each of us call our necessary expenses will always grow to equal our incomes unless we protest to the contrary. Confuse not thy necessary expenses with thy desires. Each of you, together with your good families, have more desires than your earnings can gratify. Therefore, as thy earnings spent to gratify these desires, in so far as they go, still thy retainest many ungratified desires. That just means there's just so many things out there that you want that you cannot get, not right now, while you're trying to accumulate wealth. Because to accumulate wealth, you have to make money, and you have to save money, and you have to invest money. And number two is to budget your money. Make sure that 10% is going to a savings and that the other money goes to paying off debts or enjoying your pleasures. And if you can't afford to enjoy your pleasures, then you don't, because it's not in your budget. Okay? No credit cards. All men are burdened with more desires than they can gratify. Because of my wealth, thinking that I may gratify every desire. And this is talking about, this is Arcad talking, because he's the richest man in Babylon. And he's saying that even though I have wealth, it doesn't mean I'm going to spend it to gratify all my desires, because there's too many desires in this world that you can partake in. But those desires will empty your pocket. And he uses pocket or wallet as purse. It says, all men are burdened with more desires than they can gratify because of my wealth, thinking that I may gratify every desire. This is a false idea. There are no limits to my time. There are limits to my time. There are limits to my strength. There are limits to the distance I may travel. There are limits to what I may eat. There are limits to the zest with which I may enjoy. I say to you that just as weeds grow in the field, wherever the farmers leave spaces for their roots, even so freely do desires grow in men, whomever there is a possibility of their being gratified. Thy desires are a multitude, and those thou mayest gratify are but few. There are many desires to gratify, but there's only a few that you can partake in, is what he's saying. There are many number of things that you want to do, but there are so many things that you can do. Just think about it as, just say Beyonce's in concert and Madonna's in concert and The Who is in concert and all of these folks are in concert. And you can only afford to go to one. Then that's what you should do. You should only go to one if it's in your budget to do. You can't. Even if you have the budget to do it, why should you do it? Why should you give away your money to desires, to pleasure in yourself? Life is not all about pleasure. Some of your money should go towards you in your retirement so that you're not always working for the rest of your life. There's so many people who spend their life working that they don't get to enjoy pleasures, vacations, things like that. They usually end up stopping work when they get sick. And then shortly after that, they pass on into the realm of the spirits. Hopefully that's not your life. We continue with the richest man in Babylon. I say to you that just as weeds grow in the field, wherever the farmer leaves space for their roots, even so freely do desires grow in men wherever there's a possibility that they're being gratified. Their desires are a multitude, and those that mayest gratify them but few. Study thoughtfully thy accustomed habits of living. Study thoughtfully thy accustomed habits of living. Herein may be the most often found certain acceptable expenses that may wisely be reduced or eliminated. Look at your expenses and look at what can be reduced or what can be eliminated. Because some things you just don't need. I found in my budget that I was paying for services that I wasn't even using anymore, especially when I was in real estate. I was using a multiple number of, especially app services, educational services, marketing services, that for one, they wasn't doing anything for me. And number two, after I found out they wasn't working, I wasn't using them, but for some reason I was still paying for them because I forgot that I was still paying for them. And a lot of this stuff was just being charged on my credit card. And then there's other things in your life, such as right now, I pay for Netflix that I rarely watch, but because it's only $9.95 or something like that, $9.99. I pay for it because like once a month I'll probably, every so often I watch it or I'll binge watch a show. $9.99 is not a lot for a month. But then I also have Amazon Prime. I probably use about half of its services. A lot of times the video, what I use it mostly for is for the shipping, the Prime shipping. And my wife uses it a lot, so it's a great service. But then there was other services that I was paying for, but I wasn't using. It's talking about stuff like that, you're paying for things that you're not using. I might as well get rid of it. We had cable at one time where we only watched one channel. So it's like, why? And then that channel I could have got for free. So that's what it's saying. Like, get rid of things that you're not using or not paying for. Like the home phone. Most people have got rid of that because of the cell phone. But look at your expenditures. Look at what you're spending things on. And eliminate some of those things that you're not using so that money can come back into your wallet. And here we go. Therefore, engrave upon the clay, paper, clay, back in the day. Engrave upon the clay each thing for which thy desires to spend. Select those that are necessary and others that are possible through the expenditures of 9/10 of thy income. 9/10 of thy income. Because remember, 10% is going towards savings. Cross out the rest and consider them but a part of the great multitude of desires that must go unsatisfied, and regret them not. Budget then thy necessary expenses, touch not 1/10 that is fattening thy purse, thy wallet, thy bank account. Let this be thy greatest thing. Let this thy, let me get back. Sometimes it's a little bit hard to read, almost like the Bible. It's almost read like in King James Version. So a lot of times the words get me kind of caught up. So hopefully that doesn't distract you from getting the lesson out of it. But budget thy necessary expenses. Touch not 1/10 that is fattening thy purse. Let this be thy great desire that is being fulfilled. Keep working with thy budget. Keep adjusting it to help thee. Make it thy first assistant in defending thy fattening purse. The purpose of a budget is to help thy purse to fattening. The purpose of a budget is to help thy purse to fattening. The purpose of a budget is to help thy purse to fattening. It is to assist thee to have the necessities in so far as attainable. Thy other desires, it has enabled thee to realize thy most cherished desires by defending them from thy casual wishes. Like a bright light in the dark cave, thy budget shows up the leaks from thy purse and enables thee to stop them and control thy expenditures to definite and gratifying purposes. This then is the second cure for a lean purse. This then is the cure for a lean purse. Budget thy expenses that thy mayst have coins to pay for thy necessities, to pay for thy enjoyments, and to gratify thy worthwhile desires without spending more than 1/10 of thy earnings. Budget, budget, budget. That's law number 2.